Hey everyone, thank you for watching today's episode, and thank you to today's sponsor, Keeps. Keeps is an online subscription service that helps men keep their luscious head of hair. Keeps users can experience results within 6 months of starting treatment and never need to set foot inside of a doctor's office. That said, this isn't some kitchen sink mix to make you believe your hair will be okay. Keeps offers 24/7 care and support with a network of medical specialists that are there to advise and consult on your hair goals, providing a routine that works for you. So you're getting doctor-recommended treatment without any of the hassle needing to schlep yourself into a clinic. Your items delivered straight to your door, hassle-free. To get 50% off your first order, go to keeps.com/completionist or click the link in the box down below. Again, that's keeps.com/completionist. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the episode.
So in 1987, Matt Groening was sitting in the lobby of producer James L. Brooks' office. Brooks had asked him to create a cartoon to bookend commercial breaks for the Tracy Ullman Show. Intending to pitch an animated version of his popular Life in Hell comic series, Groening realized that doing so would rescind all publication rights, something that Groening didn't want to personally risk. So instead, moments before pitching, he sketched up what would become the most iconic dysfunctional American family in maybe all of media, The Simpsons. Cut to today, and now The Simpsons is definitely up there as one of the most popular television shows of all time, currently in its 33rd season and already renewed for another one. And this popularity over the last 33 years has resulted in a movie, comic books, toys, and dozens of video games. But one video game struck a major chord with many fans, with its GTA-inspired gameplay and a loving recreation of Springfield. So today, we're gonna dive into it. This one is for you, Scott Rux. Today, I'm gonna complete The Simpsons Hit and Run on the PlayStation 2.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of The Completionist, where we don't just beat the games, we complete them. So before we start driving through Springfield, as a real quick heads up, on April 2nd and 3rd of this year, if you head over to my Twitch page, which is twitch.tv/thecompletionist, I'll be raising money once again for the Video Game History Foundation. That's right, folks, Preserved Play number 2 is happening. We got our own GDQ up in the Completionist community. We got freaking Indie Land, and we now have Preserved Play. We're gonna have members from the foundation joining us in person this year, as well as some of the fine folks who've worked on some of my favorite games, and some of the ones we're gonna be playing, including Donkey Kong Country 2, Battletoads, both new and old, and Castle Crashers. Also, if you donate a certain amount, there's a chance I'm gonna be playing your Mario Maker 2 levels live. So get those ready for me. Preserved Play, next weekend, twitch.tv/thecompletionist. Be there. Let's raise some money for a good cause. Let's go. Today, we're looking at one of the most beloved licensed games from one of the most beloved cartoons of all time, The Simpsons Hit and Run. Licensed video game. Hold on, let me try and get closer so it's worse for you at home. I imagine you're gonna cut before that.
No,
you're gonna keep this all in here?
I'll use that whole thing.
Enjoy, everyone.
Yes! All glory goes to the winner! Game over. Wake up! Last one standing wins. K.O.
So if you've existed at all from 1989 onward, you know about The Simpsons. They're all around us, like oxygen, midichlorians, or the ever-constant fear of societal collapse. They had a #1 hit song in the UK. They have their own ride at Universal Studios. Heck, for a while they were in commercials that aired during their TV shows. Everyone still craves Butterfingers, right? Bart Simpson telling us nobody better touch his Butterfingers was very important to all of our childhoods. But most important for this show, The Completionist, were that The Simpsons were in video games. And for the 27 Simpsons video games out there, a lot of them are incredibly not good. To say that the scale of quality is lopsided would be an extreme understatement. For every Simpsons arcade game, there is a Simpsons skateboarding, Simpsons wrestling, and the infamous train wreck that is Bart's Nightmare. However, there was a brief respite in 2001 with The Simpsons Road Rage. Essentially a Crazy Taxi clone, Road Rage received decent reviews and sold incredibly well, which is why I originally thought this was the game that I was playing. Seriously, you could swap the titles and they would make sense for either game. The success of Road Rage prompted Fox to ask Radical Entertainment, the developers of that game, to make a sequel. Whether they were afraid of the gameplay feeling stale or more litigation from Sega for essentially copying the gameplay from Crazy Taxi, Radical Entertainment decided to take the sequel into a new direction. Instead of imitating Crazy Taxi, they were going to imitate Grand Theft Auto. Hit and Run takes the sandbox approach and applies it to Springfield. Here, you can explore the entire city while executing different missions, much like in Grand Theft Auto. The only real differences, besides the expected gameplay structure, are that there are no weapons and hijacking is now called hitchhiking, which does make a bit more sense. And universally, everyone loves this game. To this day, it is the highest rated Simpsons video game on Metacritic. People call this the Simpsons game out there, and there actually already is a game called The Simpsons Game. Hit and Run was so popular that hardcore fans are still begging for a remaster. Hopefully, this is where Hit and Run will stop imitating GTA, because man oh man, that GTA remaster was not great.
So what about my experience with the Simpsons franchise overall? Well, to be frank, I saw a lot of the earlier episodes because of Disney Plus, and I love the arcade beat 'em up that Konami released in 1991, but that's where my love of The Simpsons kind of comes to an end. So, why am I attacking The Simpsons right now? Well, I actually started playing Hit and Run about 3 years ago over on Super Beard Brothers, my Let's Play channel. Alex and I played through the whole story mode by request of the magnificent Scott Rux. Scott has been one of our biggest financial supporters since the Completionist started. So much so that we even have a Patreon tier named after this gentleman. He's so great and we love Scott. So after doing a one-off, we decided, hey, you know what? Let's blitz through the whole story mode without really doing anything else. Just focus on beating the story. And after finishing that series, I was left with a single question. Why, Scott? Why? Why do you love this game so much? It's fine, just why?
When I grab a licensed game like The Simpsons Hit and Run, I expect something that's pretty simple and overall enjoyable, like a Battle for Bikini Bottom or either of the South Park RPGs. Ideally, the gameplay is good and it makes me feel like I'm actually in the world of the show. Hit and Run does that at first, but it quickly can become a test in frustration. The game starts off great with a really funny tutorial narrated by Bart, which brings me to the best thing about this game, the presentation. All of Hit and Run was written by Simpsons writers, with voice acting by all the original cast members. And although the graphics are definitely from the PlayStation 2 era, the Simpsons designs are simple enough to translate well into video games. The story is also very Simpsons-y. It starts out with a TV commercial where Krusty shills a new soda called Buzz Cola. Throughout the 7 different levels you beat, you learn that this is actually a mind control soda left by the aliens Kang and Kodos, meant to improve the reality show Foolish Earthlings. And it's now up to the Simpsons and Apu, who feels guilty for selling this soda, to stop the aliens and save Springfield. Now the plot is very funny and provides commentary on commercialism, television, and of course, very violent video games. But with all of the talent involved, I expected that. What was going to make or break this game is how it plays. And it plays a lot differently from GTA than I expected it would. The 7 levels are actually split up into different areas and controllable characters. For example, you can only play level 5 with Apu, and you can't travel freely between each part of Springfield like you can in Liberty City and Grand Theft Auto. Because if you want to go back to a level, you have to select it in the menu. It's not one large continuous play space. The controls are what you'd expect from a sandbox game from this era. Good, but not great. When in a car, which is most of the time in the story, you hit X to accelerate and circle to back up. And when you're on foot, you can jump, hit, and that's about it. I hope people don't get mad about me saying this, but honestly, it feels a lot more like Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts than Grand Theft Auto. And that's not a bad thing, it's just that I was told that Hit and Run was the Simpsons GTA. The story missions range everywhere from fetch quests to races to destroying someone's car by ramming into it over and over again. And these all can each be frustrating for different reasons. But it all really comes down to incredibly tight time limits that demand you to master this game, which fundamentally runs counter to what I was expecting when being told that this was GTA Simpsons. I feel like I'm just beating a familiar drum here, but hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming from. Now look, I have played a lot of games that require perfection in order to move on, like Super Meat Boy or the speed runs in Metroid Dread more recently. However, these types of games allow for immediate respawns and are tightly designed so that you can make slight tweaks to hone your skills. From what I experienced, this is not really the case with Hit and Run. So, since this is a sandbox game, all the citizens are constantly moving around the city. This means that there is a little bit of RNG to contend with. So for example, in some of your attempts, NPCs will just be completely blocking your path. Other times, technical errors will happen like flipping into invisible objects or massive lag spikes when there's too much happening. One place that Hit and Run does feel similar to GTA is with the Hit and Run meter. The more damage and mayhem you cause, the more the meter will fill, just like with the stars in GTA. And once full, the Hit and Run meter will summon a bunch of police to ram your car and bust you. Now, this will incur a small fine and respawn you right where you got busted, costing you a few seconds. Although a time penalty may not seem like a big deal at first, it becomes crucial the further you get into the game, whereas a second's difference can determine whether you succeed or fail a mission. And this time limit debacle reaches its peak in the final level, where all of Springfield is appropriately turned into a Treehouse of Horror episode. You need to drive to a bunch of nuclear waste in the alien tractor beam in order to defeat the aliens. Everything that I previously mentioned comes into play right here in this moment. The random drivers, the clipping issues, the police stopping you. But the margin of error is the smallest it has ever been because of a brief cutscene where you watch the spaceship blow up that takes a whole 5 goddamn seconds. Now this is awful because the timer keeps going even after you successfully parked your car. That means if you have 5 seconds or less left on the clock, you failed. When I finally succeeded, I barely had 6 seconds left, and my relief was palpable. Look, I've admittedly completed significantly harder games than this. Hell, in the last 3 years, I've beaten the GTA trilogy, Yakuza 0, and the countless more that's offered a far greater challenge than this. But the Simpsons Hit and Run skews for tedium over skill in a way that is confounding. It often feels like there is only one solution with no margin for error in any given mission. It doesn't even feel like I'm in a sprawling world. It feels like I'm in a racing game, a very frustrating racing game. I can't help but think that this campaign would have felt a lot better if the time limits were increased by about 30 seconds or even abolished entirely. This one mechanic, and I really hate that I have to say this, it put a damper on my entire gameplay experience.
After my time playing through this game on Super Beard Brothers, I was done with Hit and Run. The margin of error for the story missions was way too small. I wasn't really having as much fun as I thought I was, and I was completely drained. But the thing that I had experienced was a straight shot through the story, going from point A to B, which ironically is how playing the main missions felt. What I was truly missing about Hit and Run, the charm of this game, was in my blind spot. So it was time to veer off the road to find it.
Blazing through Hit and Run story mode on Super Beard Bros was one of the most exhausting games I had ever played on the show. A lot of that was because I felt like I was upsetting the audience because I didn't quite understand the game 100%. The more and more I played in front of everyone, I realized I was upsetting everyone in the essence of I was playing it wrong. But I was surprised to learn that exploring Springfield for the collectibles without a timer would be a completely joyful experience in the end. It turns out that these collectibles are a carefully thought out addition as opposed to something the devs put in because video game. They're clever, they're funny, and they make the world feel more fleshed out than just a bunch of races and fetch quests. Plus, finding these collectibles make that completion meter move closer and closer to 100%, and you know I love that. The things you need to gather are wasps, costumes, vehicles, gags, and collector's cards. The wasps are cameras disguised as flying insects that were sent out to spy on the citizens of Springfield. They can attack you with missiles, and as you progress, they get a shield even. Wasps also exist as the only enemy in the non-vehicle segments. There are 140 of these pesky robots to seek and destroy, which is a fun bit of non-car related exploration. Sadly though, destroying all of them nets you a big fat bowl and nothing. On the more positive side of collectibles, we have costumes, which immediately give the player various outfits the characters have worn in the show. Some of my personal favorites are Marge's police uniform, Cool Kid Lisa, and Homer in his moo-moo. Costumes are earned by spending the coins at different shops you find around each level. Not only are coins easy to find, but gathering other collectibles actually gives you more coins as well. It makes it breezy as hell to get the 6,950 coins needed for all the 21 costumes you buy in the game. Plus then, you get to showcase your new styles. Coins are also needed to unlock more cars. While some of these are unlocked through major bonus missions or street races, a majority of them need to be purchased from characters located around Springfield. In total, there are 42 unlockable vehicles with different stats, and you're going to need yet another 7,850 coins to get most of them. That means total, you need at least 14,800 coins to purchase everything in the game. The fourth collectible, and my favorite, are the gags. Gags are throwaway jokes scattered throughout Springfield referencing iconic moments from the show. I feel like I just kind of said the obvious with what gags are, but in the case of this game, it's a bit different. For example, if you go behind Ned Flanders' house, you'll see a bunker. If you interact with it, Rod or Todd, I'm not sure which one, will shout, "Stranger danger!" This caught me completely off guard in the best way possible. And almost all the 74 gags did this. It was a really smart way to play into the nostalgia of the show and brand. Now, the final and most important collectibles in the game are the aptly named collector's cards. These are similar to baseball or Pokemon cards, and once again reference something from the show, like the carbon rod seen in the opening credits or a boudoir photo of Homer. These are much more difficult to find and usually involve some kind of platforming or exploration to get to them, which makes these so great as the reward. When you find all 7 of them in a singular level, you will unlock a track in the bonus game. There, you can set up a multiplayer race based on the racetracks found in each level. This is a spectacular reward that makes it absolutely worth it to get all 49 collector cards. And I didn't need those rewards to feel satisfied, but every single one of these collectibles felt great to find, whether through a reference to the show or some basic combat. They add a ton of variety and depth to something that fearfully felt really basic at first.
You know, I can't help but think that I went about playing this game all wrong. You know, I originally played through the story mode by streamlining through without gathering many of these awesome collectibles in the game. Not only do I think having unlocked better cars would have made a lot of the game easier, it would have helped spread out those taxing timed missions overall in terms of the content distribution, right? These collectibles are everything I wanted Hit and Run to be. I wish I got them sooner. They reference the source material. They make the level design even better, and they're really funny. And in the end, the completion bonus does that tenfold.
So finding every gag, getting every costume, buying every vehicle, and destroying every wasp doesn't really grant you a gigantic big prize at the end, although they do reward you as you find them. The real crux of completion lies with the collector cards. That's right, there's another shiny reward attached to it. If you find all 49 cards, head back to level 3 and talk to the comic book guy. Trade him all 49 and you get a ticket for a never before seen itchy and scratchy cartoon. It's called 500 Yard Gash, and it's just as brutal as you think it would be. Viewing this cartoon fills in the final 1% needed for full completion, and the whole presentation of the cartoon really feels like a completion bonus, regardless of whether this is the final thing you did or not. But beyond the bonuses of completing the game, the Simpsons Hit and Run is also from the PlayStation 2 era of consoles, so that means there are a bunch of cheat codes that make for delightfully chaotic moments if you want to indulge, like being able to destroy other cars in one hit while yours is invincible or having unlimited speed. But most importantly, the most bullshit one to me, there is a code that automatically finishes all of the levels in the game. By doing this, you can actually just focus on the exploration and collectible parts of Hit and Run, get the cartoon, and skip the maddening timed missions. I didn't do that. I have a Let's Play of me playing it on YouTube you can watch, but if you want to do that, by all means, go buck wild. Now, here's the thing. The online sentiment about me and this game on my Let's Play channel, Super Beard Brothers, is that I don't like this game. The Simpsons Hit and Run is not a very good game. That's a sentiment that I said multiple times. But after years of separating myself from the Let's Play and actually playing it for fun in my own little unique bubble again, I came to appreciate it a lot. Completing it made the game that much more interesting to me. Hit and Run is not a bad game by any means, and I would actually love to see a remaster. The presentation is awesome, but its repetitive campaign and thin margin of error can make for some really frustrating experiences at its core. The game is at its best when you just drive around Springfield and interact with the world, getting collectibles, talking to characters, buying cars, all that stuff. In other words, The Simpsons are at their best when you just let them simply be The Simpsons. Simpsons Hit and Run is like a novelty Simpsons sweater. It's funny at first, like really funny, but then the itchiness and scratchiness of the sweater start to make that novelty wear off. But if you're a big Simpsons fan, you're still gonna love that itchy and scratchy sweater.
Sometimes in trying to optimize a route, you lose sight of why you drive, and that can be said about my experience when it comes to Hit and Run as the whole thesis, if you will. The writing is awesome when it comes to The Simpsons, but all the moments that made me laugh the most happened when I wasn't playing the main campaign and just exploring the world of The Simpsons. When I was actually playing the main campaign, however, I was miserable because of the game's mechanics. Had I simply stopped and seen the sights along the way, I guarantee you things would have been way different. So back in the day, I would have given this game some kind of in-between rating, right? Like finna peed it or finna play it, but I don't do that anymore because that's weird. So here's my recommendation to you all at home. Play the whole game if you really love The Simpsons. If not, play it the way that you want to play it. Use the cheat codes. I didn't do it, but you can use those codes at home to do it and get all those collectibles. Do it the way that you want to. Not only will you still unlock the final cartoon, you'll have a much more relaxed time in the process. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of play it.